first seed heading into playoffs, as they will be on your blue side, Alpha on the red. We start things off here with the Kalista ban and also that Volibear being banned away here from Kongyan.
Yeah, it seems there's a lot of respect still onto Wayland's Kalista pick. Definitely one of his better picks when it comes to his AD carry pool. And yes, for Alpha, we saw how scary Kongya is yesterday on this Volibear, so no questions whatsoever why this was taken out.
Yeah, yesterday was a pretty dominating performance, to say the very least. It was actually one of the best Volibears we've seen out of the PCS. Usually we criticize teams for not utilizing his early potential, but Kongya and Uniboy were able to take that game ahead. Of course, we also have that set ban coming out. It was making its way into the draft a couple times yesterday. Not going to see it here for the first game, and no Nidalee there for World 6.
Exactly. Chen9 has been picking up the set for the past few games as well, picked it twice. And yes, no power farming junglers so far at the top of the stats, at least, with Graves and Nidalee being taken out. Makes me wonder what AHQ will decide to do. Will they put Uniboy back in Zoe duty, or will he go back to Galio duty, as it is open? But Ashe will be the first pick, priority for AHQ.
And interesting enough, it seems like the Aphelios nerfs finally hit enough that Wako is not going to first pick that for AHQ anymore, even though it is available. I want to see now, though, we have gotten rid of those power farmers and gank heavy junglers. Maybe we get to see World 6 onto its Gragas. Of course, it was buffed up in 10.15, is a possibility. But for Alpha, they just want to go ahead and get priority down toward that bot side and try and get Waylon and your son on some comfort picks like the Thresh. It wouldn't shock me if it's the Aphelios.
Yeah, absolutely. For Waylon, it is definitely one of his power picks as well. He has picked it up 6 times so far in the tournament with a 50% win rate. So at least I do have that matchup. And just as you mentioned, what will World 6 pick, as Graves is already taken out? And the next best thing for World 6 would be that Trundle, which is also sitting at 100% win rate.
I even saw there on the player cams too, Waylon, getting some reassurance there from your son, even saying, hey, you know what, even the champion got a couple nerf, we still trust you on it. For AHQ, though, on their side of the map, we're going to get Uniboy and one of his comfort picks being that Zoe.
Exactly. We're wondering, will Uniboy be back at his Zoe? It has contributed to so much since spring. Again, when we look at his KDA back then, 32 KDA, which was absolutely mad. And as we can see here, a hovered on towards Renekton, a very safe pick for Ziv.
Actually, for Ziv, too, this is maybe him possibly playing a stronger top side. Most of the time we see him have to fall back onto things like the set or even that Ornn a couple times where he has to play back in lane and then come back into the team fight carries. This shows AHQ might be willing to actually play aggressively via him, especially if he's going up into a matchup like that Ornn.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, I wouldn't really say unusual, considering the fact that Ziv has been picking up different unique top laners such as the Kennen, maybe sometimes even the Sylas. He has picked it twice. But yes, it is definitely very safe. Meanwhile, Bush, we will not see him in that, bruiser matchup, but instead more towards the team fights with this Ornn.
All right, so getting rid of that Ornn. Now I beg the question, are we going to see more jungle bans? And do we actually get a more or less possibility that we get to see World 6 onto his Gragas? We see the Trundle being banned out. The only other thing that I believe he's played at the moment has been stuff like the Lee Sin, which could easily be banned out here by Alpha, and then that really tries to narrow down the pool for Kongyan.
Yeah, definitely both of these junglers will have to fall back to their usual. World 6 and Kongyan had a history of falling back to the Echo once their pool is restricted, and there as Alpha also removing the Braum out of the way and the LeBlanc just out of respect against Chen9.
All right, so we also see here too, if Alpha really want to, they have their pick of the litter when it comes to what's available left. Like you mentioned, could go onto that Echo, but still maybe looking toward that mid lane, as Chen9 is still yet to show what he was wanting to pick there in mid. We could see whether or not that's going to be the case. The Olaf still being available for World 6. Guess we won't get to see the Gragas this time around, even with the buffs. Opting for something with a little bit 80 damage, and then we'll likely see a lot of that magic damage flow through Chen9.
Yeah, absolutely. Having to set up for that matchup instead, despite having to see already Uniboy's Zoe in the mid lane. For AHQ, makes me wonder what Kongya will be picking up this time around, as they do need a little bit more on that utility side just to pair it up with Uniboy. And yeah, this fits. If they do lock this in, you get that Sleepy Trouble Bubble, you get that Q easy kick, and it's whatever Chen9 picks, I'm going to be a little bit worried.
We are seeing, though, a little bit lack of CC coming out from Kongyu. That's usually one of the main components when we see from the jungle mid duo of AHQ, so instead is going to have to rely on Uniboy to set things up like you mentioned with the bubble, and now for AHQ, we're going to see a fallback to the Kench. I'm not a huge fan of it coming into the region as of late, but still going to give safety on over to Waka.
The thing is, yes, you have a very aggressive jungler, so normally what the supports would usually pick, either a Thresh, maybe a Nautilus, it's quite open, so you just really match that aggression, but instead they're worried about bottom lane, and they really want to make Wako safe. And with that said, it's the usual combo, the Karma and as well as the Olaf for the mid and jungle.
You tell me, though, that Alpha is going to be the ones playing a Karma mid with an Olaf Aphelios, and this screams no early aggression outside of maybe that Thresh maybe trying to get a pick. Unfortunately, I would say Chen9 should be able to get some prio in mid, and maybe we see an invade coming out of World 6, but other than that, I don't think we're going to see much action from this Alpha squad compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we see bottom lane, yes, having to trying to scale, but at the same time, it's still a very aggressive composition. When we take a look at those trio, the jungle, mid, and support, they will definitely make moves around the map, but as AHQ's bottom lane doesn't have such an aggressive support, although Ashe is also an aggressive AD carry itself once level 6 reaches, so I suppose the roam will be a little bit tricky for Alpha.
Yeah, I think the big question here is whether or not we're going to see any action come out of Wako from that level 6 on the Ashe, like you mentioned. But again, I feel like this is a much different identity that we're starting to see out of Alpha, and a little bit something that usually has not worked out for them. So maybe they're able to take AHQ off guard, maybe they're able to stall out the game, and maybe those jungle bans being hammered away over to Kongyu puts him on something like the Lee Sin, where he can't be as impactful as he wishes. But again, this is still the start of our 6 games today and our 6 final games when it comes to the regular season, and we still have yet to decide our final playoff seeding. Still have seeding up for grabs. AHQ looking to force that 4-way tie up toward the top of the standings. Alpha looking to break the 3-way tie in the middle if they're able to find the victory here over AHQ as we head on into the Rift.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
And on we go. Action going to be heating up today, like we mentioned. No teams have finalized their seeding when it comes to playoffs. Still can see a bunch of shifting here and there. Our top 6 is pretty much locked in, minus that kind of mid-pack teams that are in 4th and 5th, where we could see a little bit of a shuffle. Top 4, though, kind of already know that those are going to be our top 4. Still the possibility here as well of Liab qualifying later today if they're able to at least force a tiebreaker. And that's the thing. Our regular season may not end today. There's a high possibility that we are going to be seeing tiebreaker games today. Yes, tomorrow. And maybe that's heating up the action, or maybe my AC is broke, similar to what yours is. I know you. I'm sweating with anticipation, but it might also just be from the heat.
Yeah, for sure. Today is just all about turning up the heat. Just as you mentioned, I feel like this summer is absolutely so close in comparison to spring, where we only had one tiebreaker match to decide whether or not Liab and HKA would get that final slot. In the meantime, though, we still got that top 4 teams that are still incredibly close.
Yeah, and for those that might be knowing, if we do have a 4-way tie, it's interesting that the head-to-head is extremely important to consider, as most of the teams, AHQ, Machi, PSG, they're all kind of 1-to-1 with each other. J-Team, though, is the only team that's actually dropped two of their games to one of these other squads, and that actually puts them lower into the possible seeding of the tiebreaker. So for AHQ, there's still a solid opportunity for this team to claim first if they're able to play flawless and also get some help from Machi later on today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the reason why, even though on paper, this match in particular, AHQ was able to, get a lot of objective control and take that win against Alpha. Alpha, though, still managed to get an upset against Machi, who has been, one of the, I suppose, clean teams coming from spring as well based on their performance. So yeah, it's still going to be unpredictable.
And usually when we talk a lot about Alpha in particular, the first half of the split, it was always your River and Chen 9. Now it's kind of the World 6 show that has taken on over. Anytime we get to see him on something like a carry on the Graves, usually is a stellar performance. Last time we saw him on like a Lee Sin, it wasn't all that amazing, but was still able to get the job done. This time on an Olaf, where I feel like you don't have as much as an impact, but still carry potential when you paired it up with this Karma.
Yeah, exactly. Having to just keep up the farm and having to just press R, and with that Karma as well, it's just gonna just power throughout the backline. And AHQ especially, Gen 9 though.
Gen 9 force the flash over to safety. Bubble's not going to land, but it don't matter as they're able to cut off his escape. That's going to be first blood going on over to AHQ in the mid lane.
And it's kind of like a copy-paste of what we saw from the Kanye and Univoy show yesterday when they went up against HKA. It was Kanye constantly just visiting Univoy's lane and then getting the enemy mid laner 0-4, 0-5. And with that, losing mid control and HQ having to pour their resources slowly towards the rest of the map.
And it's a rare sight to see Alpha actually giving up first blood, as most of the time this team is able to strike first. It looks like, though, they are going to try and do what they can to respond here. Knockup doesn't land, but that's an easy dive and an easy kill going on over to Bush with the help of World 6.
Yeah, great setup coming from Bush, having to poke Ziv out into half HP, push him towards the tower. It is definitely going to be an easy path towards that dive without any sort of sacrifice. Flashes are still online for top and jungle of Alpha.
So at least Alpha are able to respond here after giving up that first blood. Like we mentioned, a little bit uncharacteristic, but Civ in particular too, rare that we get to see him actually get a whole lot of jungle pressure out from Kanya, so kind of expected to see that World 6 was at least going to try and do what he can, especially when you have that mixed damage profile on the top side of the map. As that's a flash coming out. Okay, very aggressive coming from World 6 here, as that also forces a flash out of Kanya. So able to tag here, and alongside that Karma, like we mentioned, if she's able to get a push via mid before Uniboy goes for a roam, we could see them pair up together.
Yeah, exactly. As long as World 6 is able to just keep sticking towards these targets, such as Kongi and Uniboy, especially come level 6, it's definitely going to be tricky for the mid and jungle duo of AHQ. That's the reason why AHQ, as much as they can, they want to take advantage of the pre-level 6 at least when it comes to those two lanes in particular.
And this is actually a rather interesting sight to see, because most of the time AHQ are very good when it comes to their dragon control early on. Alpha, though, realizing they have an opportunity here, want to try and go for this play, but you see already Collapse coming on through. Uniboy is able to go ahead and tag the AD carries with the bubble. Wei Lun forced to use his cleanse rather early. Chen 9 came back in with a teleport himself, and now that is going to be dragon secured by Alpha. AHQ may be afraid of this Collapse. Civ, though, going to rejoin in onto the fight. Hook's going to land onto the Renekton, and with no level 6, he's going to get taken on down, and there you go. It's the second kill on over to Alpha. Uniboy still fishing for some damage. Waka wants to step up himself. There's going to be flashes blown left and right. Flashing on forward is Uniboy, and one more auto will do it. Going on forward, that's going to be another kill. Back on over to Wako, and HQ, they're able to respond back, almost finding the paddle star onto Wei Lun. In the end, it's a 1-for-2, but Dragon in favor of Alpha.
Yeah, AHQ did not stop there, because just as you mentioned, AHQ usually has that first dragon control, but unfortunately, because of Alpha's early picks, they're able to take control of that spot right there. And the thing was, at least AHQ is able to get a trade off of this, but Alpha, no flash whatsoever anymore.
And there you are, as we take a look back here. Again, was kind of juggled, but you see HQ when they're split apart like this, and they were waiting a very long time for Civ to join into the fight because he did not have teleport.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried for Chen 9 because he was just in the middle of it all, but Yursan with a beautiful death sentence just punishes Ziv, being extra aggressive. But this is where Alpha just wants to disengage, and unfortunately, they've already blown most of their skills. No ults just yet, and a lot of flashes have been blown there for HQ. Does have a lot of chase potential. That's the reason why they're still able to get an exchange despite having to lose that dragon.
So Dragon on the board for Alpha. Not a bad start when it comes to their objective take, but still, game rather dead even, and a slight advantage actually in favor of HQ when you take a look at the gold. And also to note here is Uniboy was able to pick up 2 kills and the 1 assist off the tail end of that fight, which he himself, reminder, can get very scary if he gets ahead on his favorite champion like this Zoe.
Yeah, Uniboy, back at Spring, we saw how many teams would just instantly ban that at first rotation. And as well as HQ having putting a lot of priority over this pick. And now as we see Alpha, or World 6 rather, having to spot out Kong, who's already level 6. We're reaching that scary mark that we mentioned earlier between World 6 and as well as Chen 9. Because you can't really face this Olaf. No one can deal with him.
That's kind of the issue, too, when you pick in something like a Tahm Kench. Unfortunately, you know, a Thresh adds a little bit more utility when it comes to some of these invades, and now Sarah is only roaming back over just now after they were able to get a little bit of prio back in that bot lane. Does allow at least the defense to come through, and AHQ will not lose out on this red buff, but still the aggression coming out from Alpha and targeting toward one of the weak points we have mentioned of AHQ early on.
Yeah, I mean, despite having Tahm Kench, just pure utility, not a lot of punish, but that Abyssal Voyage, if he reaches level 6, would still put Alpha at risk on that numbers disadvantage, and therefore Alpha, having to play safe, decided not to overcommit on that invade against AHQ's jungle.
That's the thing, Wako is usually self-sufficient in the lane phase himself, and maybe on this Ashe should be able to play decently safe, so we might actually see some roams come out of Ysera toward this mid lane, or even toward the top side of the map as pings coming out for our first Rift Herald.
For Alpha, they are definitely set in position. Vision-wise, a little bit decent when it comes to at least over that river, but he might be forced to use Ragnarok defensively, and that is when Alpha may lose the incoming fight.
And you see there, instead of risking it up against the side of Kongya and the rest of the crew, decides just to head on back to base. Doesn't look like, though, AHQ are going to use that opening to take the Rift Herald just yet, as you did see the Karma was able to get a push in, so still a little bit hesitant until they're able to crash this wave, likely in top lane, and then we might see this collapse.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an eeny, meeny, miny, mo kind of thing, as it's already 50 seconds on the clock before the next dragon is spawned. Actually, AHQ is going to time this well. Unfortunately, though, they will not get that reset if the HP bars are going to be a little bit tricky, as there's 2 members having to tank the Rift Herald.
All right, here we go. Going to have a little bit of a contest here as going on forward. That is the Eye going to be taken on down over by AHQ, but a 3-man knockup into a 3-man knockup once again from Bush is able to find the engage, and the shutdown comes on through at World 6. Unstoppable with the Ragnarok. Will get taken down, though, by Kongya. Nonetheless, Alpha able to prevent the Rift Herald from going in favor of AHQ and finding themselves another 3 kills.
And this has been the constant story for Alpha. They will always have those early wins in skirmishes, in objective fights, such as the Rift Herald. And with that, AHQ has been losing again, even after that Dragon take as well. And with that said, I really thought AHQ had this, but the pincer attack from Alpha was just very effective.
Yeah, and credit to Bush here. If you look back and see an Alpha victory on this game, that play right there might have just secured it again. You're getting 3 kills back into the pockets of Alpha, as well as preventing that first Rift Herald, all off the play off his arm.
And the timing is perfect, too, because AHQ will have to fight against a pressure that Alpha will release with that Rift Herald, push somewhere, release that, and go towards that dragon. And AHQ at the moment, unfortunately, they're not finding the picks, and Alpha is just trying to speed up the pace of the game.
So now here the question becomes, what are you going to be able to do with this Olaf getting ahead? We've already seen him now build up into this warrior enchant, and you keep getting caught out like this. Ysera's going to want this one back, but Alpha with full aggression flashing on forward. World 6 on a rampage now, forcing the flash as well out of the Ashe.
My oh my, that is unfortunate timing, because it is just right on time where the teams were about to converge and contest towards that dragon. And unfortunately, Ysera just wanted to put a war down, and unfortunately, it had to be punished. There's a lot of punish potential, and AHQ just trying their best to see whether or not they can get an exchange, a trade off of that, as they constantly pester Chen9 in the mid lane.
And now that's Alpha with second dragon in the game. That's something we rarely get to see when they go up against some of these top teams. Usually they get slowed down, but no slowing down World 6 once he's in that Ragnarok. And things pathing out pretty well here for Alpha when they also have that late game insurance policy in the form of the Aphelios.
Exactly, and they do have some sort of protection and peel as well in the form of that Thresh and in the form of that Bush and Karma. So everything is meshing well. You've got a really good bumper with that Olaf, transitioning well to Waylon just in case they're not able to be strong or just actually snowball the game. And AHQ, this is looking a little bit tricky for them.
I also got to admit, Chen9, he likes doubles, 2 blasting wands in his inventory.
Doran's ring too.
You know, he wants some wands and he wants some rings, all right? That's the plan here. Doesn't have to do a whole lot, especially when World 6 is 4-1-2. Like we mentioned, ever since he joined this team, it has very much been the World 6 show. And you put him on something like an Olaf that has been able to get ahead as fast as he has, alongside something with a Karma to help boost him during that mid to late game. The win condition here for AHQ, it's starting to feel a little bit scary. They're kind of having to hold on until they find their second 2-item power spike.
And the thing is, an AHQ is actually banking on having to survive the whole laning phase, as Alpha is still working their way for a potential dive against Uniboy, but Ysera is right there just in case.
I see Bubble's going to land there on Chen9, but nothing to worry about. Already, though, this bot lane's starting to roam, and that's kind of put Ysera kind of on the back foot because he's a little bit late, very reactionary when it comes to this Kench. We said maybe level 6 we start to see him make roams toward the midsection of the map, but it just hasn't really been the case. Instead, he's just trying to help out Kongya and maybe just pair alongside him in case he runs into World 6, but even giving away his position here, as that's going to be a bit of a scary spot himself. There you go, Voyage goes into mid, Chen9 getting himself back over to safety, but still, unfortunately, Bubble is going to land from Uniboy. Cleanse comes out, and now the turnaround possibly from World 6. Kongya gets himself back to safety, and there won't be anything else out of the play.
It's very difficult for AHQ to try to catch them off guard because there's so much safety, there's so much cleanses. Oh dear.
Unfortunately, Civ, again, getting dove here, and this top lane starting to also get out of control with the fact that Bush has been able to find assists, getting his second kill. And something got to come out of here soon from AHQ to slow down this Olaf. The one takeaway they will at least have is the fact that the gold has not blown itself out of control, but first brick will at least open up a little bit of a gap.
And that's the thing. Most of the gold definitely going towards Bush. He's 5-1-2 at the moment on the Olaf. Good news is that if they are able to remove the most fed member away from Alpha, then they do have a better chance in winning the fight. Problem is, there's the Karma empowering you. There's as well as the Ragnarok that he just used to eliminate Ziv so seamlessly. And then I think that's the problem. So far, HQ unfortunately is unable to exchange off of the map, and Waylon is farming like nothing is bothering him in the bottom side of the lane.
Yeah, because there hasn't been anything. Wako, unfortunately, we haven't seen any action come level 6 out of this Ashe. And again, we are still going to wait on toward that second item power spike that'll come through from AHQ once you get Wako onto his Bork as well as his Runaz. He starts getting some DPS out, and maybe fight execution will help him out. But I think there is a very big concern, the fact now that World 6 is onto his second item. Luden's also complete for Chen9. We're not seeing the Athene's route, so that Karma is also going to be doing some decent damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Better for that wave clear when it comes to Chen9 on this Karma. And a little bit more thicker shields, if you will, for the rest of the squad, if they do want to follow up on that Ragnarok. And with that said, Rift Herald is going to be up, is actually already up. We're seeing pings coming from Alpha, but at the same time, 30 seconds on the clock for that Mountain Drake to spawn.
Here we go. Second Rift Herald of the game. Going to be started up here by Alpha. going to be able to at least claim that for themselves. And again, another neutral objective that goes in their favor, and also looking to set up toward now this third dragon. AHQ already nearby, but vision down.
Yeah, no vision as much coming from Alpha side at least. There's one at least on the Dragon Pit. But the thing is, Alpha timed that perfectly. They put down this Rift Herald just in time for AHQ, wanting arrows coming in.
Arrow comes in, ends up going through the uprights, though, unfortunately, is Alpha looking for a collapse. But instead, Call the Forge God going to be used somewhere on the map. That was down actually toward the bot lane as Waco's going to get caught out. Ysera nearby. It doesn't look like anything else will take place until World 6 makes his own appearance. Ragnarok going to be popped. Teleport going to come out from Civ. Wants to try and turn back this fight. No Ragnarok available, as well as the slows. Flash comes out from World 6. A nice knockup, though, into the Death Sentence. Ysera eats up his Crocodile, but still now is the main target. Going to get taken on down low. Aphelios over toward the side. Wei Lun gets kicked back into the fight, but will not be finished off. And AHQ, this is a sloppy execution on toward the team fight. And Alpha find themselves another quick victory, still with 5 members alive.
That's the thing, they're not able to get that exchange because supposedly Wei Lun was so exposed against those HQ members. Kongye, though, unfortunately gets that kick, kicks Wei Lun to safety, but there's a lot of unhealthy HP bars on the side of Alpha, so unfortunately they don't have much control over the Dragon Pit.
And just getting some word that we are going to have ourselves a little bit of a quick pause. It seems like one of the mic issues taking place over on one of the team sides. So hopefully we're able to get that resolved and get ourselves back into the action quite shortly. Again, AHQ, a little bit rough for wear from what we expected of this team coming into their first game of the day. And Alpha are able to take it to them.
Exactly. I think the theme for this match as a whole is end characteristic. Alpha not getting first blood. AHQ not getting a lot of dragon control, and the third dragon might actually go to Alpha.
All right, Alpha. There you go. It's a nice steal, though, coming out from Kongye, and that will delay the soul as Alpha are not able to secure their third Drake, and Kongye able to give HQ a little bit of breathing room.
Kongye took a gamble. He has managed to steal that dragon. It was an insanely dark dragon pit, but they're able to stall, just as you mentioned. But at the end of the day, you know, Alpha is still able to get that 2 dragons and more control over the map.
And it starts off here. This whole fight was actually Waco. He got spotted out over toward the dragon pit, and Bush actually not able to land an ability on over until that Call of the Forge God, but took a little bit too long.
Took a little bit too long. AHQ unfortunately had to retreat from all of this, and that's the go button. Ragnarok, totally relentless, coming from World 6. But the thing that Alpha feared the most is definitely Ziv having to finish off the kill as the Ragnarok expired. But you're seeing so many key death sentences towards Ziv just to make sure that the peel is in there. And Wei Lun, you know, Kongye kicked Wei Lun to safety.
Yeah, that one Kongye is going to be probably wanting back. At least in the end, he was able to redeem himself with that Dragon Steel, and like we mentioned, it delays the Mountain Soul for Alpha by another 5 minutes, as now they're not looking on that next spawn of the Dragon, instead have to wait for another secure, and gives AHQ time to, like we mentioned, hit the 2nd to 3rd item spikes.
Yeah, for AHQ, this will be great for them as it gives them a little bit more of a breathing room, considering that they've already lost the inner tower in the mid lane after that dragon take. And with that said, it's looking a little bit tricky. And the thing is, all that HQ needs to do is wait and bait out that Ragnarok and punish them, as they do have a lot of chase potential. As for Alpha, if they go in, it's kind of difficult to go out. And HQ has so many ways to restart the fight, either maybe with that kick in or the Q coming from Kongye, or perhaps a sleepy trouble bubble poke and see where it lands.
The thing I'm a little bit worried about, though, was Civ was kind of meant to help bridge this early mid-game, and now we kind of have to see him on this Renekton make a little bit of some hero plays when it comes into later parts of the fight, because at the moment we haven't really been able to see much of Civ, mostly being Dove in the early sections of this game, and kind of acts as that buffer, that front line from the rest of the team trying to gauge onto his carries.
And we see him try so much in these team fights, and unfortunately there's just a lot of peel, a lot of mobility in the form of that Karma Shield. And again, your son has been death sentencing Ziv time and time again, which makes it even harder to punish aggressive plays from Alpha.
And in the meanwhile, you just have Uniboy at least trying to get some pressure into the side lane and do what he can. We'll see whether or not Chen9 is going to fall for this. You do have Kongya on over towards the side. Bubble will land onto the Karma, and that's right when the tower's going down. A decent chunk of damage. The Lee Sin actually ended up pathing back into the river as he saw the rest of Alpha waiting nearby in case there was an engage.
I love the patience from Chen9. He had cleanse still, but decided to hold on to that spell just yet, as despite not having a lot of vision where Kongye would just pop out of nowhere.
So now a little bit of a breather in the action as AHQ at least want to try and get some vision back up around this Baron. When going up against an Alpha squad too, when you have a Karma as well as that Aphelios, can get a decent amount of siege in onto these towers. So it looks like a lot of respect being shown there by AHQ, but still have to have in the back of their mind this Mountain Soul that now in 1 minute, Alpha could go ahead and get themselves set up to try and take that and then transition that into the next Drake. If AHQ are able to take it, they delay one of the win conditions here for Alpha and give them, again, a little bit of breathing room to try and scale back.
Alpha even trying to find a pick, but they might get punished.
Oh, they might get caught, and that's a Ragnarok pop. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough damage. That is going to be World 6 down. A nice arrow coming out from Wako. Ysera now going to go ahead and just try and chomp down onto Chen9, called the Forge God. Going to get interrupted on the dash, and there you go. Another kill back on over to AHQ, and Alpha a little bit late to the party. You even saw the Lantern come out from your son. Weilun decides against it. Bubble won't be able to find its mark via the wall. And HQ get a crucial pick ahead of this Mountain Drake spawn and maybe looking for more. Descen's going to connect onto Civ. They decide to back off, and HQ should be able to take this neutral.
Ay, for Alpha. They had the lead, but unfortunately, the plan is, yes, you pair Chen9 with World 6 with a Karma, get a pick, you transition well to get that Dragon to make it a 4v5. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of vision to work with, and therefore, AHQ easily punishes Alpha for their aggression.
A good collapse coming out from AHQ. We're able to at least interrupt Bush from getting that Call of the Forge God to maybe even try and get that turnaround back over to help Chen9. Unfortunately, HQ were a little bit out of range when it came to the next bubble. But just like we mentioned, we're able to transition that into a Dragon like you saw in the picture-in-picture. And again, that stalls out a win condition here for Alpha and gives AHQ the possibility now of trying to secure their own Mountain Soul.
Yeah, definitely 2 for 2 at the moment when it comes to Dragon pieces. But for Alpha, they've got to be careful with the lead that they've managed to garner for the past 24 minutes on World 6 to the fact that no one can actually deal with this Olaf at the moment, 5-2-3. But you can definitely deal with him if you overwhelm him in numbers. And for Alpha, yeah.
If he goes and Ragnaroks into 3 members again, he will get taken down. Again, this is a very squishy Olaf. Only again starting to work now to the Sterix, but only with that Black Cleaver, it's only health and not a whole lot of armor outside of the Ninja Tabby. So if he's not careful and gets just runned in, he can easily get blown up by Uniboy as well as a combo from Kongya to at least half health him. And has to show a little bit of restraint as well as some respect. Uniboy getting very aggressive. Civ, though, looking for a flank. He is spotted out on a ward. He did see it go down, so he has an idea if they do know he's nearby. As Alpha at least trying to get position on toward the top side of the map as Chen9 looks to push in top lane.
Yeah, definitely great wave clear coming from Karma, is able to put pressure when it comes to the side lanes, and Alpha, getting dibs over this Baron pit and having to pressure AHQ off of the map. And that is a very dark map. Hawkshot, thankfully, will spot this out. Let's see how AHQ reacts.
All right. Alpha trying to force a play out of AHQ. Kong is going to be able to get himself onto the backside of the Baron pit, and with that Q connecting, Alpha decide to back off here, trying to keep the Baron aggroed, but it will reset. Unfortunately here, Alpha have to realize that they are going to have to start dealing with the mini wave down in bot. Civ going to get knocked up. Descent's not going to connect onto Kongya, and that's rather big. Your song going to get slept down by the Zoe. still going to be fine here. There you go. A nice connection onto your son. Force the flash back to safety. That's with the support taken out of the fight. Meanwhile, Chen 9 going to be soloed out here by Ziv. You have the exhaust coming out, but unfortunately for Chen 9, still trying to hold on. Ziv maybe goes a little bit too far forward, but there's Kangyu on the kick, able to line up the Aphelios for the Paddle Star combo, and Uniboy finds himself a double kill. World 6 non-existent during the fight, and AHQ were able to find 2 in the jungle of Alpha.
And we were talking about this, bait all the key ults from Alpha, and unfortunately it was that key Ornhorn that Alpha really needed to start this 5v5. In AHQ, they have all the power in the world, they have all the kits in the world to restart the fight and just collapse in Alpha. Now, Ziv with that teleport.
Very aggressive from Ziv. In comes that Paddle Star onto Bush. Gets a little bit of damage, but we'll see whether or not World 6 can do much here. Ziv gets taken down low, but when you pop the Ragnarok, you get rid of your defenses, and just like that, Uniboy able to set up another Paddle Star from the bubble. Ziv gets himself the kill, and AHQ now in control of this game, up 4,000 gold with Baron in hand.
This is such a tale of Alpha where they will get a huge lead early, but unfortunately AHQ or the enemy team will still come up on top come mid-game, and this was unfortunately a not so very good position as AHQ is still able to land some of the key abilities such as that Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and with that, no Ornhorn to restart the fight. Alpha is a little bit scattered, low health bars, and the kick from Kong is amazing.
And yeah, unfortunately, Wei Lun can't get himself back to safety after that. It's an easy lineup into Uniboy's Paddle Star, and bing bada boom, AHQ find themselves now in control.
And just like that, in control, Uniboy back to his usual Zoe shenanigans, 6-1-4, Void Staff, Ludens, and Rabadons, and that's the reason why we see so many of these squishies from Alpha just pop like a pimple after one combo from Uniboy.
Do note though, for Alpha, you are starting to see some of the ornaments come online. You have Molten Edge completed there for Wei Lun, as well as the Abyssal, as well as the Sunfire for Bush. So there is a little bit of that gold efficiency coming back for Alpha, but unfortunately now, getting themselves into a bit of an awkward situation where they have to come in toward this Dragon Pit. If they get caught out, it might get a little bit ugly. That's going to be a damn pop immediately over onto the side. Forces World 6 Ragnarok, so you won't have that available. We do see, though, AHQ going to be able to clear out wards as they go for a reset.
Having to reset. This game is dangerous because one Sleepy Trouble Bubble could be the end of either Wei Lun, either Chen 9, maybe even World 6 because he doesn't have Ragnarok anymore. And the thing is, yes, Alpha does, like Wei Lun in particular, he does have Cleanse, he does have that QSS just for that additional safety, but they've lost their control in general of this game already as AHQ is in a comfortable spot to keep going with this Baron as well.
And there you are, Mountain Soul on the possible table here for AHQ if this game goes another 5 minutes. And Alpha, they've kind of lost all the aggression that we saw earlier in this game, and now Kongya again, Paddle Star combo into the bubble, and it's a beautiful combo coming out from that Mad Team duo. But you do see Chen 9 able to walk away to safety without having to use his flash.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Kongya setting up for that Sleepy Trouble Bubble. As unfortunately, yes, just as you mentioned, did not finish off Chen 9, but it forced the Karma to back away as AHQ still having to move on this siege at least and take advantage of the Baron that they have acquired.
Here comes that call, the Forge God. Wako a little bit out of safety. Yersan, though, is stepping nearby. Another Q going to connect. Kongya deciding to maybe go for the possible play. Ends up safeguarding back over to safety. Knockout comes out from Bush. But now you have this Ashe that's come online. Wei Lun gets chunked out low. Meanwhile, Civ is in the bot lane, just trying to get some damage onto that inhibitor tower. And now the inhibitor itself is Kongya goes for a ride. Maybe a little too far deep, unfortunately, as the Lantern brings him back into the action. Civ unable to claim that inhibitor tower just yet, but mid lane is now cracked open with AHQ again pushing in.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, Lantern. It's going to be a temporary 4v5, but the damage is just too late already as that's one inhibitor down and an inhibitor in bot side almost down as well. AHQ's buff has expired on this Baron, but at least they are able to get a lot of value out of it.
get themselves that mid inhibitor. Civ likely wanted to try and take down the bot lane inhibitor to open that up ahead of the next Baron spawn that will be joining us in about 3.5 minutes. 3 minutes, though, until we have our Mountain Drake spawn. And for AHQ, like we mentioned, that will be Soul Point with 4 stacks of Mountain already acquired. Going to give them a little bit of a buff when it comes to the defense and some of that big damage that can come out of Alpha as we take a look back here of the fight in mid.
And it all started here because the Ornn Horn unfortunately did not connect, Death Sentence did not connect as well. Therefore, any sort of reset for Alpha to actually restart the fight was not available. And that's the reason why Alpha was a little bit hesitant. You see, Bush wanted to keep going, but Alpha is just so low because of the poke coming from Uniboy in the side. And I suppose this Lantern trip was just amazing, and even though it was already a 4v5 for AHQ, the damage already has been done as the structures has already fallen. And a quick kill on Bush.
A quick kill on Bush, so they were able to at least equal out the 1-for-1 there themselves. But now, setup going to come out from AHQ, and it comes down to Alpha. They themselves are the ones that have to look in toward their own jungle, just looking extremely dark with the control coming out from AHQ, and a Baron spawning in less than a minute.
And for Alpha, it has been, you know, the early game was in their control, and unfortunately, just one. As World 6, of course, is still very powerful, but at this point, AHQ will be coming in 5s. Therefore, it's very hard for World 6 to sort of isolate one target and just try to storm the back line as AHQ have full control over Alpha's jungle.
See there, Uniboy at least trying to fish for the bubble himself. For Alpha, it's a very risky play to actually make their way in through the jungle. As well as when you are kind of the team that's in behind, especially when you're on a mountain rift. I was talking about this with one of the commentators over from Lek Ender, mentioning that it never feels good when you're behind like this. A lot of choke points, and especially works wonders for Uniboy as again finds himself a Paddle Star. Your son forced to eat a chunk of damage down to about half health. Without that Thresh being available, you lose one of your primary sources of engage on the side of Alpha, and Civ still pressuring down toward the bot side of the map.
And it's perfect too, because that is, Baron has already spawned. Alpha will be pressured to try and contest that, as we see Kongya already starting it on his own. And it's a very dark map for Alpha, and therefore they have to tread carefully. But putting their inhibitor at bottom side at risk, as Ziv does have teleport to rejoin the fight, as HQ decides to just try to... Oh no.
Stopwatch comes
World
through.
6?
World 6.
Timing.
Good timing there, at least. Uniboy was looking to knock him down with a Paddle Star, but that is going to be the stopwatch broke for World 6 and doesn't allow him to go for a little bit of a team reset during some of these fights. And now, AHQ, if they really wanted to, get full prio down toward the bot side of the map. Alpha kind of have to feel a little bit risky because they don't know where AHQ is, but meanwhile, Waka's going to go ahead and secure the Mountain Soul.
Yeah, this is a great trade. AHQ still having to have full control over the map. Ziv still pushing bot to set up for that Baron take. And Alpha, again, just as you mentioned, still having to guess. Stopwatch, incredible value from World 6 has been taken out because he wanted to use the stopwatch rather than the Ragnarok for safety, for defensive purposes. And now he has to rely on that. Which is going to be a little bit tricky because it is Baron time, and World 6 would so desire to try and see whether or not he can take that away.
World 6 does have Flash available, as well as Ragnarok. At least prevents a little bit of the CC. Needs to go over that wall, though, which is kind of the issue. No Blast Cone going to be spawning here anytime soon, it looks like, as they don't have an Infernal Rift to actually work with. Alpha's still pressuring, but do look toward the bot side of the map. Civ's just taking that inhibitor, and there's your call. Alpha say we can't actually go for this Baron. We'll lose out, especially if Chen 9. There you go, World 6 over the wall. Way too late. Popping the Ragnarok. Decided at the last second he wanted to try and go for that, and they end up losing both objectives in the form of the Baron, as well as their inhibitor in bot lane being taken.
And I would say always it would have been perfect, but it would have been a crazy risk that Alpha would most likely fall back towards Elder Drake contention against AHQ to see whether or not they can come back again into this game, because looking at the carries, especially Uniboy, they're just basically out of control. Wako still has zero threat whatsoever. Supposedly it's on World 6's duty to be on like carry elimination duty. But unfortunately, again, he's always being picked out with that sleepy trouble bubble before he can do anything.
Well, and you take a look at his build. Where's the MR? There's absolutely none coming out of World 6, where Uniboy is the remain fed carry on the side of AHQ. So one good Paddle Star, even without the bubble, is still going to half health World 6, and that's a major concern when World 6 was mainly acting as your main carry, especially when you paired it off with something like a Karma. Even there, you saw some decent damage. Ysera, though, has his stopwatch available. Chen 9 gets himself back over to safety. Bush wanting to get himself the knockup. A Death Sense, though, connects onto Kongya. He himself, though, has his own stopwatch. He's getting himself back to safety, and Ysera will be able to do that. And Weilun, way too far on the front line. Civ is able to find himself the kill. Bush trying to do what he can to prevent the team from excelling forward. In comes the arrow. It's going to be flashed away by your son, but AHQ looking for the base.
And with that, Alpha, their lead has just crumbled before their eyes as AHQ is already storming the base.
And for Alpha, it looked like the opportunity to break the tiebreaker in the middle of the standings and upset AHQ. But again, this team from AHQ able to keep composed, able to find a win condition back in their favor. And just like that, Alpha unable to do anything at this point as the Nexus falls and AHQ able to take home the victory.
And characteristic may be the theme for this game, but for AHQ, they still managed to 2-0 Alpha in towards this tiebreaker. What a strong finish, and still, again, when it comes to Uniboy, almost I feel like his sleepy trouble bubbles seem like they're homing, almost.
Oh yeah, he's able to find the mark very often, and you can just see that, I guess you could say, synergy between him and Kongya when it comes to the plays, the execution with the Lee Sin combo into a bubble multiple times onto members of Alpha. Breathtaking to see. Didn't end up getting the kill on the second time there, but overall was quite devastating as we take a look back at some of the action from the game.
Yeah, HQ, you know, unfazed still despite having Alpha fully control over the first 10 minutes of the game, first 15 minutes of the game. But for Alpha, they were a little bit greedy at some cases as they've wanted to invade the jungle before that dragon take. But this is the final, one of the final moments of the game, I suppose, with a beautiful kick coming from Kongya. Unfortunately, Weilun, despite having so much peel and so much body blocks, I suppose, in the form of Bush, the form of peel such as the Thresh, he's still unable to be safe and sound in the backline.
And a little bit of a long one to start off our day, but still, AHQ, they were able to handle that aggression that came out of Alpha early, World 6. Unfortunately, you started to see the issues that come with an Olaf going full AD, with not a whole lot of defense into the build. Can easily get shut down even with a Karma by his side.
Yeah, and that is what Alpha has fully committed when they drafted this, when they had World 6 on towards this Olaf. Because normally when we see in the PCS, if the early game doesn't pan out, if they're seeing that there's a, they go for the tank route. As Uniboy, yes, 816, 100% kill participation. Great Zoe.
Yeah, Zoe, a little bit disgusting. Just a little bit, all right?
Just a little bit.
That 8-1 score line. The damage share of 46%, by the way. That is disgusting. That is not okay. And Uniboy's going to be taking home the MVP as AHQ are able to, again, claim the victory over Alpha and help secure an opportunity to maybe fight in a four-way tiebreaker. Again, they have to deal with PSG, that's still right below them when it comes to our schedule later today, and then as well as the J-Team Machi match, which decides that overall tiebreaker at the top of the standings.
Yeah, most of the top 4 teams are in the standings.
大家好，我是 HQ 的 AD
Have to fight still.
Wako 你好，先恭喜你赢下了这场比赛。那我们这边有几个问题想要采访你。这场比赛前期的风向是比较乱啊，你们队伍是比较劣势的，是怎么样稳住的呢？
So in the early game, in this game, you guys actually were in a very messy situation. So how were you guys able to stood up and play the late game and win off the game?
因为就算我们前面有点小失误，可是我们的阵容在中期，我们知道我们可以怎么打，所以就是中期稳下来之后，把阵容发挥出来。
So even though we'd made some mistakes in the early game, we know that our team comp is very, very strong in the mid game, so we were able to play that off in the mid game and win off the game.
那第二个问题的话，想问，其实，在10.15版本里面，亚菲利又算是受到削弱，然后很多人觉得可能对你们的队伍影响会蛮大的。那你自己是怎么看这样子的事情？
So the nerf on Aphelios in the 10.15 patch, a lot of people think that it will cause AHQ a lot of damage, the most damage actually. So what is your opinion on that?
我自己是没什么差别啦，因为就是AD 其实玩什么都是在配合队伍的，所以我没什么感觉啊。
So personally, I think it doesn't cause a lot of issue because for me as an ADC, I play whatever champion my team needs me to play, so it doesn't really matter.
OK， 那最后一个问题哦，你们所有的例行赛程已经结束了，接下来就要开始准备季后赛。你们第一轮想要对上哪一个对手呢？
So who do you want to meet first in the playoffs and why?
没有什么特别想对上的对手，就是打谁都一样，赢下来就好了。
So I don't really have any particular team that I want to face. Anyone is fine because we just have to win.
OK， 好，那就是这边的话也是感谢你来接受我们的采访。哇，那就是感觉他们也是准备的非常充足的。
Well, you saw there, it doesn't really matter about the Aphelios nerfs, at least in Waco's eyes. Whatever the champion needed to be played, he's willing to pick it up, and was able to do decently well there with the Ashe. But again, commendable performance coming out of the mid lane from Uniboy, who's able to at least secure the MVP for AHQ in their victory over Alpha Esports. Again, though, we still have 5 more matches to help decide what our playoff seeding is going to look like. And coming up next, it's PSG Talon taking on Hong Kong Attitude. Again, one of those teams both in the top 4 looking to break that tiebreaker, as well as HKA in the 3-way tie in the middle of the pack. Still lots of action coming out of the PCS in our final day of the regular season.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.